just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out.
The View has to be, if you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television.
Here, let's watch this because it's so funny.
The trial in New York was politically motivated, otherwise have been prosecuted if it was someone else.
Just for clarification, did you mean that the 34-count case in which Donald Trump was found guilty was politically motivated?
I found that when the judicial system gets weaponized and targeted political enemies for political gain, I think that's inappropriate, and I think that degrades our collective trust in this very important institution, whether that's on a Democratic going after a Republican or a Republican going after a Democrat.
All right, everyone. When the number tied to a lawsuit climbs into the millions and the words at the center come straight from The View, the story stops being just about politics and turns into a major public showdown. John Fetterman, the Democratic senator from Pennsylvania, has filed a lawsuit against Sonny Hostin and the producers of The View, claiming defamation and damage to his reputation. It's not every day that a sitting senator takes a daytime talk show to court, making this a rare, dramatic case that could have lasting effects. So, buckle up. What you're about to watch comes from real broadcasts. And just as the lawsuit was filed, Joe Rogan jumped into the conversation with some strong reactions of his own.
Now, I think I was the first Democrat saying, hey, we need a secure border. It's a significant issue. And if I thought there was any kinds of issues, and I've been very vigilant throughout, I've been actively involved in those.
I don't like the optics of going down to Mar-a-Lago and kissing the ring. I mean, Donald Trump will be in Washington. He should have been in Washington already because he should have been transitioning with his team, but he has refused to sign the GSA agreement and wants to go with his own ethics plan. And so that's one of the reasons why he's not in Washington yet. And so I take objection to that. But the one thing that I just want to say is, I want him to stop talking about Greenland. Greenland is not for sale. Like, why is Donald Trump talking about Greenland? You know why he's talking about Greenland? Because it has oil and natural resources some of those resources are unique to China and Russia. And that's what he wants.
The real fans of The View that are like, oh, these ladies are on point. Most of those people can't leave the house. I think the problem with that show is that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in. And they always bring on a token conservative woman and they yell over her and silence her.
The court filing was packed with pages of legal language, but at the heart of it was one main claim: defamation. John Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, says that Sonny Hostin's comments on The View went beyond tough criticism and crossed the line into something much more damaging. And that's where things stand. A lawsuit with serious consequences, a daytime TV host facing major backlash, and the world's biggest podcaster adding even more attention to the story. If that sounds like a lot, hit subscribe because we're only at the beginning of this story.
There are those on the left who feel like you have made a rightward shift recently, going to Mar-a-Lago, joining Truth Social, your positions on issues like immigration, fracking. What do you say to those who are now, in a sense, questioning your commitment to the Democratic Party?
That's just happened not to be true. I've been on record, too, saying I am not going to become a Republican. Although maybe some people might be happy on one side, but I would make a pretty terrible Republican. I can't keep chasing down every last thing that's online because they're just happen not to be true, and just look at my votes. Look at the things that I haven't changed in a way.
For Fetterman, those comments weren't just harmless jokes. In his lawsuit, he argues they grew into a story that stuck, turning serious policy discussions into easy daytime TV punchlines. That's where the real tension begins. Was this simply a talk show doing what talk shows always do? Or does a sitting senator have a reason to expect a higher standard?
I have to say, I don't like the optics of him going down to Mar-a-Lago, because I think that's become kind of like, Donald Trump's little palace, and it's like trekking down to Mecca to see the prophet. So I don't like that. I don't, and it feels like he's yucking it up. Problem is, Donald Trump is not normal. And so what used to be normal becomes something that we talk about. I think John Fetterman, frankly, is right, but I hope that does not mean that he won't call out the abuses of power, that he won't criticize him with.
Now, in the court filings, the senator argues that comments like Navarro's were more than just colorful TV moments. He says they slowly damaged his reputation, making him look less like a serious lawmaker and more like the target of a daytime TV joke. To his critics, that may have made him seem more relatable. But to Fetterman, it showed he had far more on the line than just another round of political point scoring.
Terrible.
A terrible situation.
Terrible situation.
And to me, they were doing those jobs. And Republicans, even the Republican governor was saying, like, these are good workers, and this is not the problem. They aren't eating geese. But I made a commitment. More than anything, I was more worried about being around to be a dad. I mean, I have three young kids, and my wife, she lived through all of this. So at that point, it started. I was in the hospital for about 10 days. And I start to get better and better. The strength started to come back.
Then Rogan played the clip. It showed Fetterman warning that politically motivated prosecutions can weaken public trust in America's courts. To Rogan, the irony was impossible to ignore. A senator speaking out against weaponized justice while also suing a daytime talk show was exactly the kind of topic his podcast thrives on. So here we are. A lawsuit with serious stakes, a TV host facing heavy criticism, and the world's biggest podcaster adding even more fuel to the story. If it all sounds messy, that's because it is, and we're only at the beginning of this story.
The team reached out saying, hey, and I don't know if this is like a trolling or a hoax, but they extended an invitation. What do you think? I'm like, well, I mean, if they're playing it straight, then I think it's pretty reasonable to have a conversation. Inviting me to engage, and I visited it. So maybe some people would be critical of that, but for me, engaging the president, I think when you're in this business, I mean, that's part of the job. Anymore you would criticize Governor Newsom, that received the president there after the fires in California. They are going to find a way to work together. I mean, that's where we are. And I hope maybe you are watching are tired of just like the venom and the hate. And it's like, I'd like more bipartisan kinds of things. And you are going to agree with things, and you're going to disagree on things. And I'm going to pick my fights, and I'm not going to.
The tension inside the studio may have started with Sonny Hostin, but it was never going to stay there. In today's media world, what gets said on The View at 11 a.m. doesn't just disappear. It spreads across podcasts, news headlines, and living rooms all over the country. And when daytime TV collides with politics, there's one voice millions of people wait to hear more than anyone else: Joe Rogan. Stay tuned, because when Rogan weighs in, the reaction usually isn't far behind.
It's fucking hilarious. It is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies-infested hen house.
The audience in Rogan's podcast studio laughed nervously, but he wasn't just making jokes. His voice turned more serious as he described The View as a show people love to hate. He argued that it stays on the air not because of thoughtful discussion, but because it's what he called a rabies-infested hen house. The words were harsh, but the image stuck. It painted a scene of non-stop chaos, feathers flying everywhere, and constant noise without direction, all broadcast to millions of viewers every day.
And then providing a pathway to amnesty, and then you would have voters that would be significantly voting towards the Democrats because they're the people that enabled them to come into the country in the first place and provided them with those services. This is a big fear that people have, and that you're rigging this system and that this will turn all these states into essentially locked blue like California is.
And that's where the tension reached its highest point. The lawsuit painted The View as being careless with people's reputations, while Rogan's comments painted the show as careless with its own credibility.
Well, I'm not really sure if that's what's in play. I think it's really like it's important that we have to have an honest conversation.
But doesn't that seem logical, though? If you have a significant number of people that are being moved into swing states, she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on for sure. I don't think Sonny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and just fucking It's nothing
Just
there.
go for it. Yeah.
There's nothing there.
On one side, John Fetterman tried to keep a calm tone, reminding viewers that the country needs honest conversations. He even admitted that he knows what it's like to be judged by others. His words came across as careful and personal, like someone tired of always being in the spotlight. On the other side, Rogan didn't hold back. He leaned back, shook his head, and spoke his mind. In that moment, he wasn't just making fun of the situation. He was holding up a mirror, challenging his audience to ask, is this still journalism, or has it turned into nothing more than theater with feathers flying?
When I was on there, I really had no idea how it was going to land with the audience. So I just went in there, did my thing. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know who Sunny Hostin was. I actually still really don't know. So I wasn't expecting necessarily for her to kind of try to ambush me in that way and attack my character in that way. And I responded to it in the moment, as I do.
Sunny's very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
You know, I think the other ones, there's a couple of the other ones, don't have to name any names, who are just very dull-minded.
The studio lights were bright, but not everyone seemed at ease under them. Rogan once said that walking onto The View felt like stepping into a room where the traps were already in place. There was no script, no warning, just a feeling that someone was waiting to make the first move. When the attack finally came, he laughed, but it wasn't a laugh of happiness. It was the kind of laugh that carried a warning, the laugh of someone who believed the game was already stacked against him.
Guy even looks like a pirate. You know, you're bringing guys in that normally wouldn't be there, that are at least willing to listen. And, you know, it is analogous to a pirate ship in the fact that it's coming in and it's disrupting, right? He's changed the thing. They have the power. So, of course, he's dealing with the power that is. He's very clever. He's doing the PR in terms of, okay, I'm listening, I'm curious, etc. But where the rubber hits the road, he's voting Democrat. So he's having his cake and eating it, too. That's politics. He's revealing himself to right now being the shrewdest of the Democrats who are in play.
And that's where Fetterman's lawsuit changes the story. It's no longer just about whether one senator felt insulted. It's about whether a talk show can use someone's reputation as entertainment without ever being held responsible. Outside the studio, people laughed, shared memes, and replayed the show's most talked about moments. But inside a courtroom, the mood is very different. There, every statement can be examined as evidence, and every applause line can carry legal consequences. The line between free speech and defamation suddenly feels much thinner, stretched so tight it could break.
So a Democrat that works with Republicans on legislation that actually advances a common sense agenda, then that's going to score another win for PA like he's
the energy industry,
amassing.
by the way, the energy industry in Pennsylvania. Look at that.
Right.
Look at what's going to happen there. And he obviously has a vested interest in making sure that that production happens.
He's been doing essentially what he actually campaigned on early on. Immediately after the election, I was like, hey, you know, we have a choice. You know, we can freak out and follow every other thing around, you know, like a cat, you know, with a laser, you know, after every one. But I'm not that guy. I'm not going to be that Democrat. You know, for me, there's things I'm going to agree with, I'm going to disagree with, but I'm in the business of finding wins for Pennsylvania and for the nation and engaging the president. I think I see that as doing my job.
If Fetterman wins the case, it won't just be a victory for him. It could become the moment that pushes television to rethink how it handles public debate, with talk shows paying closer attention to their words, not only for ratings, but also for responsibility. So, will this lawsuit change the way television operates? Or will it fade away as just another headline in America's ongoing culture war? Stay with me, because what happens after this case could end up making an even bigger impact than the lawsuit itself.
I'm curious what your takeaway was from meeting with him, and what, if you found that there's any specific policy areas you think you can work with him on?
Yeah, well, I think overall it was a positive experience. I mean, he was kind, he was cordial. It wasn't in any kind of theater. It wasn't trying to get your picture taken to kind of put something out on social media. It was just really a conversation. I actually spoke for over an hour. One of the things can we agree on? Well, one of the things that was easy, like the Dreamers. You know, the Dreamers, immigration, that. And Giselle was part of that community, and we both had the opportunity to express that. You know, I would also, you know, I'm on the Ag Committee, and I think protecting the SNAP as well, too.
The atmosphere inside The View seemed calm at first. John Fetterman spoke about respectful conversations, saying politics should still be about finding common ground. He mentioned immigration, SNAP benefits, and the hour he spent talking across the table. On camera, he stayed calm and measured, but once the clip aired, the reaction was anything but quiet. Ana Navarro pushed back, saying that visiting Mar-a-Lago sent the wrong message. To critics, Fetterman's decision to meet with Trump raised tough questions. Was he trying to build bridges or giving legitimacy to someone many in his party viewed as a threat?
But overall, it was just a straight up conversation, and I just have a rule. Like, I'm going to engage and have a conversation that's anyone playing it straight, and that's be doing my job again.
You did get a lot of criticism for it from some people who thought you going to Mar-a-Lago gives cover to Trump by creating the solution that he's amenable to working with Democrats. I didn't love the optics of you going to Mar-a-Lago. He was going to, which is his palace. He was going to be in Washington a week later. But what was your goal?
That's the real contradiction. One man says he was simply doing his job, while the show treated it as a political betrayal. Now the lawsuit has turned that disagreement into a legal fight. Did Sonny Hostin cross the line into defamation, or is Fetterman using the courtroom to make his own public statement? The irony wasn't lost on viewers. The same senator who called for open dialogue was now taking legal action over words.
Do you think that is helpful, and do you think there should also be some soul searching on the Republican side who need to analyze why they would nominate a convicted felon who ran on lies, threats of retribution, and concepts of a plan?
I haven't spent any of my time after the election freaking out or just, thinking about, here's where we are. And I would like to remind everybody that that's the way democracy works. I was warning people that before the election that, you have the risk. If Trump wins, then he's going to get the House, he's going to have the Senate. And now you have the Supreme Court with a strong conservative slant now, too.
The irony was hard to ignore. On The View, Sonny Hostin questioned why Republicans would continue to support a convicted felon. Fetterman responded by talking about democracy and the importance of accepting election results even when you don't like them. Later, when asked about Hunter Biden and Trump, he stood by his position. He argued that both cases had become politically charged and reflected institutions being pulled by partisan pressure.
Senator, President Biden's decision to pardon his son Hunter is facing bipartisan backlash. Even the Democrats are all over it. But what do you think? Is this much ado about nothing? It is his son, after all, and people do have sympathy for that. But a lot of people are angry with him about it. What do you say?
Oh, well, I think it's undeniable that the case against Hunter Biden was really politically motivated. But I also think it's true that the trial in New York for Trump, that was political as well, too. Now, it's that. And in both cases, I think a pardon is appropriate. And I really think collectively, America's confidence in these kinds of institutions have been damaged by these kinds of cases. And we cannot allow these kinds of institutions to be weaponized against our political opponents. And it's very clear both trials were politically motivated and weaponized that on the other side.
And that's exactly why this lawsuit feels bigger than a single comment. To some, it's evidence that Sonny Hostin crossed the line, turning political commentary into personal attacks that harm someone's reputation. To others, it looks like Fetterman is overreacting, using the courts to push back against the same public scrutiny that every well-known political figure faces.
I'm just having a comment. This is going to be the president. And I am not just the senator for Democrats in Pennsylvania. I'm the senator for everyone in Pennsylvania. And my state picked Donald Trump as president. And if I have the opportunity to have that conversation, and I bet we're going to find things to work together for a better Pennsylvania and a better nation. And that's why I'm engaging in this.
He's taking a lot of heat apparently for taking the trip, but do you think his reasons are sound?
It's the most common sense answer I've ever heard. He's a senator to an entire state, and his state happened to turn for Donald Trump, so more than half of that state voted for the person that's becoming president. You're a senator heading into 13 hearings of confirmation he's making. Yeah. Your job on paper is to advise and consent. That's all we ask, and that's what he's doing.
In the end, this isn't just about Fetterman versus The View. It's a larger debate about media responsibility, public accountability, and where the line between free speech and defamation should be drawn. Fetterman says his job is to represent all Pennsylvanians, even when that means having difficult conversations. But this lawsuit raises an important question. When does commentary become reputational harm, and who gets to decide? That may be the real issue at the heart of this case. This video is based on publicly available reporting and commentary involving Joe Rogan, John Fetterman, Sunny Hostin, and related news events. It is presented for commentary, criticism, and analysis using information from public sources. If you enjoyed this perspective, don't forget to subscribe, because the next development in this story could arrive sooner than expected.